Hey everybody, how are you? This is Reverend Dr. Thomas J. Ianello from the North Iowa Wellness Center of Hope in Miller Place. Wanted to talk to you today about environmental stressors that we actually examine our patients for when we do an evaluation using nutrition response testing. So what's an environmental stressor? Well, these are stressors that can show up in your body by way of evaluation using a homeopathic test kit to check for those presence of those items in the body. So what I mean is that we have the ability using a homeopathic vial that represents the energy of different types of things that can occur in the environment or in your food or in your water or even in the air. And we could put those test kits on your body, recheck your system, and we can see by strength and weakness whether or not those things are present. We find this a lot. It's not presently found by many different practitioners because a lot of people don't check for them, but I'll give you some examples of the 5 stressors that we check for. And they're in no particular order, but they're all equally important. Number 1 is food sensitivities. So we have roughly about 40 vials that represent 40 different foods that we would put on your body to see if you have a sensitivity to a certain food. You know, many of you are familiar with peanut allergies or sensitivities to sugar and all those types of things. But what's interesting is you could have a sensitivity to something you're eating every day, like tomatoes or even chicken. Things that don't normally, come to your attention as being sensitive to. We have found those things. If there is a sensitivity to those things, it causes an upset in the body, and then the body can go into a state of disharmony, and you can actually start to develop symptoms, allergies, weaknesses, all those types of things. Second type of stressor are environmental allergens, things like chemicals, metals. Let's stay on the chemicals. So chemicals can be anything from pesticides to genetically modified foods to household aerosol deodorants, to the aluminum that's in the underarm deodorant you're putting on every day, to the cosmetics that you're wearing, not realizing there are literally hundreds of chemicals in your cosmetics. The body begins to absorb these things into its cells over many years, and then it could build up, and these represent toxins that we would call chemical. I had touched on things like metals. Now, metals we find quite frequently too. We check for these. You're familiar with things like, let's say, aluminum and mercury from vaccines. How about something like arsenic, which is actually used in the food product industry to process foods? We find that in things like tomato juice and in everyday foods. We check for heavy metals. I have found radioactive metals in patients. I found strontium. I found thorium. All these unusually strange metals that we can quantify and check for. Metal toxicity is more common than you think, and it wreaks havoc to the nervous system and can actually cause severe debilitating illness that can not be found by traditional medical diagnosis. So we check for those stressors as well. And then we also check for another stressor, which is basically immune challenges. Immune challenges are things like bacteria, virus, fungus, molds, parasites, things that you would not normally think to check for, but we check, again, using our homeopathic test kits, utilizing the procedures that we use, and we can find the right nutrients to help you safely remove those stressors from the body, help the immune system actually build itself to fight off those things. And then one of the other common stressors that we check for, that I don't really know of many people that check for this, are scars. Now, why would you have to check against a scar? Well, do you know what a scar represents? A scar represents a tear in the nervous system tissue. So just to give you an example, normally when nervous system tissue is running normally in the body, it has nice striations to it, like you see on my fingers. When you have a scar, the scar rips through the striations, and then you have this building up of scar tissue that actually confuses the flow of the nervous system, which can actually cause lots of neurological issues, from depression to inability to sleep to inability to heal. Common scars that we find are episiotomy scars, anything in the central midline, any kind of piercings. Earring scars show up a lot. These are things that you may not even realize are affecting you. So these are just some of the valuable things that we check for when we run our examine our stresses. So those could quick recap on the 5 stressors. I know it might be new information for you, but believe it or not, we find this quite frequently. And if you find it, heal the body to help the body correct itself. You can eliminate those stresses and get the body into a healthier state. Hope that was helpful. Hope it got you thinking. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.